During summers when I was a kid, we always went and visited my grandpa's cabin up in the Smoky Mountains, and my dad used to tell us stories around the campfire, and this one story always stuck with me. He'd lean in real close, whispering like he was about to share some big secret, and he said, "You know, son, there's this spot by the stream not too far from here. In the daytime, it's all sunshine and butterflies, but at night, it gets downright strange. I've been there a few times, and every time I'd feel this sadness like I needed to cry, and I swear it felt like someone was watching me, but I never saw a soul." As a kid, it kind of creeped me out a little, but when I got to my teenage years, I started to laugh it off, thinking my old man was just trying to give me the heebie-jeebies. After all, I'd spent a lot of time out there at my grandpa's place and never felt nothing like what he was talking about. But that story stuck in my head. So one night after my grandpa passed and I started taking my own kids up there, I had this one night when everyone was sleeping, but this story popped into my head and I just couldn't fall asleep. So I snuck out while my family was asleep in their bunks and ventured down into the wilds. The forest at night, it's a whole nother world, let me tell you. As a kid, you're scared of monsters or something, but now, as an adult, I was honestly more afraid of real critters, but it's pretty creepy nonetheless. Anyway, I made my way all the way down to that stream, and when I got there, I sort of kicked myself for not doing this sooner because under the moon and the light of the stars, it looked prettier than I had ever seen it before. But just as soon as I got there and started to admire it, all that stuff slipped away pretty damn fast. My dad was not BSing me. It was like the air got heavy and a feeling washed over me like I was so sad I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had just told me the saddest story ever. Best I can say is that it was like every good thing I had inside of me was just sucked out, and all that was left was just grief. I couldn't explain it, but I stood there frozen, tears welling up and my heart feeling like it was in a vice grip. I swear to you, I was standing there for what felt like an eternity. It was like that place had a hold on me, a powerful hold. Eventually, though, I heard my wife's voice yell out from the cabin back up the mountain, and it snapped me out of it. Thank God she did, because I don't know what would have happened. A couple years went by after that, and when my kids were old enough, I started warning them about that creek just as my dad had me. But one random day, I saw a news article that said, "Century-old remains found near Gatlinburg." Turns out, those remains were discovered not far from my grandpa's cabin, about a half-mile upstream from where I was that night. They say that from the looks of the boy's bones and some of the stuff that had lasted all these years, he broke his leg while out there hunting and tried to make a shelter out of the side of the mountain. Who knows how long he was there, but I am damn sure it took a while for that poor boy to die, because I definitely felt his sadness. Now I can look at you again.
Well, I'm glad we started this off on a light note with a dead child. Thanks, Brandon. That's awesome.
A dead child. Ah.
Yeah, no, it's this will be super easy to recover from this. This is good.
Leave it to let's just get all the macabre out of the way. It is Halloween.
Hey, you invite Southern Gothic on, by God, you get Southern Gothic. So
You're gonna, there's a little bit of darkness here. Yeah.
I actually, coincidentally, I was looking at a Reddit thread of places that people have lived that they said are really kind of vibey.
Yeah.
And Gatlinburg came up a number of times.
Yeah.
I've got the screen caps here. One was, I've only been there once when I was around 10, but the entire time I was there, it just felt off. I felt like we were someplace outside of reality and everything felt very heavy. I traveled a lot when I was younger with my family, and I still do, but I've never experienced anything else like it. And then someone else commented and they said, "Yep, used to travel there frequently with my family, and every time something just felt off. I'm not sure if it's because it's like a beach town, but there's no beach to be found or what. But I've never felt an energy like that, even from haunted cities and places." And so I've never been. I actually don't know that I've been to Tennessee, but only very briefly. Is there something particularly unusual about Gatlinburg?
Gatlinburg, it's interesting because, that's the Smoky Mountains, right? And it's got like all the entrances to the Smoky, or a ton of entrances to the Smoky Mountain right now, right there. And so it's become a tourist trap. right? And I mean,
Oh, okay.
early on, very early on, it became a tourist trap when it became a national park because, that's where all these lodges, all these hotels and everything. And what ended up happening is there's like this main strip down there now of just, I mean, all of this tourist trap bullshit as well.
Right.
So they've got, I mean, like all the Ripley museums, they've got all these restaurants, but none of it's really all that high class. It kind of turned into like they're saying like the beach, but without a beach. That makes sense, right? I mean,
Right.
think
Okay.
about if you're driving through like Pensacola and it's all t-shirt shops or or something like that. Just really kind of tacky. So Gatlinburg does kind of have that tacky vibe, but at the same time, that's the Smoky Mountains, right? I mean, it's this like really, really weird piece of civilization right in the shadows of this pretty epic, mountain range at least. Well, epic, I know for what we have here in Tennessee, right? So it's kind of a what would you call it? Not a transitive place. That kind of transition point between these two things. So I could see that for sure. But
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, I've heard a lot of stories from there, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by places like that. I guess I don't know if you'd call it liminal. I don't know if that's the right word.
Liminal, that's the word I was
It
looking
is.
for,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of fascinated. Like I know the whole liminal thing has become really popular with the backroom stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm interested in real places like that, places that have this sort of, yeah, this transient quality where nothing feels permanent. I think that's why I'm kind of obsessed with hotel rooms in a weird way, because they are kind of this liminal space. It's your space and then it's someone else's space, and it's never its own thing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to get too deep into ghost stories or in ghost lore and go really esoteric just right out of the gate here, y'all. But I mean, look, I think at least with the stories that I tell the most with this region of the country and in this region of the U.S. and it being the South and it being a place that was notoriously inhabited by indigenous people, and then we just watch folks just come in and just grab land, right, and just push out indigenous people, just right. Seeing that, I think that there's this level of a lot of the ghost stories really revolve around this idea of you're scared because this shit ain't actually yours.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is not yours. Someone else actually owns this. And I think that's a kind of a classic haunted house theme in general, right? This we have this we think that this place is ours, but really there are thousands of years of it being someone else's before us, and we're just the little cherry on top. So Gatlinburg, you probably feel that vibe some because of it being that space where you're in the mountains and it is kept pure. It's kept, it's a national park, right? There is a lot of danger there. I mean, gosh, have you guys ever gotten in that like 411s to the national parks?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, if you're gonna go missing somewhere or fall off a mountain, there ain't no better place, you know.
Well, not to be, I don't know. Maybe I'll cut this out. We'll see. But I remember you saw the actor Julian Sands recently went missing in LA, the Angeles National Forest. And when he did, I remember I said to you, Paul, I said, he's not coming out and they're going to find him somewhere they'd already looked. And that's exactly what happened. Basically, the weather changed as soon as they went in looking for him, and they eventually found him somewhere they'd already looked. And
Yeah.
it fits that whole pattern to a T. And I know we have some people who listen to the show who basically say missing 411 has been debunked, which is, it has not. I mean, you can argue that David has compromised his credibility with some of the claims he's made, and I think that's a fair claim. But there is still enough. I've read about 5 of the missing 411 books. There's enough there that I think there's still a compelling argument to be made for something happening. I'm never going to pretend to know what, but I do think there's something to it. Is that a big thing in and around Tennessee? Like the missing people thing? Is that more than anywhere else, would you say, or is it just kind of part of the background?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily, I'm more in Middle Tennessee here, so we're not we're not up in the Smokies or anything like that. But I think that I think that one of the vibes I get with living here, and I don't know if everybody feels this way here by any means, but when I first came out, New Orleans born and raised, it's just flat swampland, right? And then, move up here and been here, gosh, over 20 years now, more than half my life here. And um, the it's the terrain and everything's so different where being here in middle Tennessee, I can drive an hour any direction and I'm out in the middle of nowhere in this beautiful country, right?
Right.
This beautiful. And I think with something like the missing 411, it really this parallels a lot of what we do with ghost stuff, where there is so much uninhabited land. There is so much wilderness. There's so much out there that for us to think for a second that we understand what's in there or what is going on is just pure arrogance, and that's my take on stuff like Bigfoot. That's my take on, a lot of things of that nature as well. Like, can I really at all say that I know what's going on? Because if you fly over the mountain, you fly over the Smokies or something, and you look down, I don't see civilization. Like there's you can hardly see any of that. So I don't know if there's anything in particular with missing 411 being that active here as opposed to somewhere else, but the majesty of the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachians and all of that certainly it gives off that vibe. Yeah.
Speaking of Bigfoot, I saw something on, I think it was citydata.com. I was digging through the forums looking for weird shit about Tennessee. And there was someone there who claimed that the hairy guy himself can be found in the eastern part of the state, north of I-40. Is Bigfoot an oft-reported phenomenon there in Tennessee?
Oh yeah, East Tennessee, yeah, up in the mountains up there.
Yeah.
I mean that's part of the whole thing of the like ridge walking, right? With the Appalachians being that kind of stretch. Now, I always say before I talk about Bigfoot ever, look, I'm a professional ghost storyteller. I am I do not know. I love talking about Bigfoot. However, I'm not well researched in it. My knowledge of Bigfoot is watching TV shows on Discovery Channel. Okay. So I am not, but that was a part of one of those ones. Gosh, it wasn't Finding Bigfoot. It was like, I can't remember it was the more scientific approach where they were mapping out all the locations where Bigfoot is. And they found that you could actually track its migration patterns based on people's reports and how it like would come through the Tennessee chain of mountains. It wasn't Expedition. Dr. Marina Meyer was
Expedition Bigfoot.
Expedition Bigfoot. There you go. That's fascinating. But yes, there is East Tennessee down into Georgia right there. There's actually a Bigfoot museum just south of us in Georgia over there. So that part. But where I'm at, there's not. In Middle Tennessee, we're kind of the lowland here. Yeah.
Everything I know about Bigfoot, I learned from Paul. So
It's not the most prolific state, but it's got a long history of encounters with hairy bipeds, especially as Brandon says on the eastern side towards the Georgian border. Because there's loads of reports in that particular area, though people would probably say it's more likely to be what is considered the skunk ape than Bigfoot. But you never know when you've got that kind of changing terrain from hot and humid to glacial. Why could you not have two different species?
all right, so this I got to know. Where are we at on thinking whether or not skunk ape and Bigfoot can get it on?
Well, a dog and a fox can't mate, even though they are similar members of the same family. So I wouldn't know.
Well, no. Let's explore this. Yeah, Brandon, this is what you signed on for. Welcome. So now they can't mate. That doesn't mean. Well, I mean they can't.
This week on Ghost Story Guys.
They can't breed, but they can't. I mean, they could theoretically mate, could they not?
Oh, technically, mating means for the pursuit of offspring, doesn't it?
Okay, could they bang?
I'm gonna jump in here and say my current guilty pleasure is I've been watching the old Star Trek original series, and as far as I can tell,
Kirk can mate with
it
anything.
is possible for mating without procreating with just about any species. If you look at William Shatner,
Yeah.
So boldly go where no man has gone before.
So I understand what the question is here. However, yeah, that is interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, apes will try and sexually assault humans if given the opportunity. Orangutans are especially notorious for attacking humans. So it's, whilst it's not the pleasantest of thoughts, it is a reality that you will have cross-species attempts to mate for gratification as well as spreading the gene pool, as it were. So whilst they may be similar and yet genetically different, which would stop them mating to create offspring, then I think nothing's off the table, because that's how Pisleys have now appeared, isn't it?
Oh, right. Yeah. I never thought we'd get through from Bigfoot banging to Pisleys, but I guess it's a pretty clear through line.
Oh my God.
Because people didn't think that was a real thing until they shot one, and then they realised it was a crossbreed polar bear grizzly. And people had dismissed that for years until they caught one. So we know it happens when we don't expect it. And they're quite far removed from each other, because I think polar bears branched off 500,000 years ago or something. They've been on their own path for quite a long time from the rest of the bear family. But it clearly shows that they've still got it in them at some level. We've no idea how many times it would have happened. Was it a freak? Was it one particular thing? But you get it now with coy wolves as well. Coyotes and wolves are crossbreeding.
I just imagine this sort of like Zootopia-esque Club Med. Where all these different animals are they're throwing their keys into a bowl.
Meet the Feebles.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess.
I did not realize I was coming on this show to get a lesson in the birds and bees from Paul.
Well, it's more like
that
the bears
was incredible.
The bears and the bears.
The bears and the bears.